All right. Let me get a sip of coffee here. Clear my throat, drink some water. So I didn't stream on Monday because I was sick. And been busy, so I haven't done as much. I keep saying that. Usually I got in the habit of getting more done off stream. But we're picking up where we left off. I've already started everything, so just gonna dive right in and get working. And I think the one thing I realized was, so I did some testing briefly this morning. Brought up the previous test results, and this is why I'm glad I'm doing things like this, keeping track of my metrics on previous code changes, is because somewhere something broke. And actually, this is the bad part about this. So if I go here, 33 is the last report I had. PR33 was this one. These two, I didn't put test reports on. And I'm guessing I didn't do that because, I don't know, changes were small enough that these shouldn't have impacted anything. And maybe that's true. So one thing I could do is I could roll back to probably this commit and see like what the test report looks like. Does it match up with this report? And if it does, then that means it's the current code change that's breaking things. But in theory, all this is doing is the chunking. And in fact, if I disable the chunking, if I just say do everything in a single chunk, so as you can see, processing chunk 0, we're still getting weird scores here. So angled page 1 does fine. And you know, I have to decide how much I want to care here, because I'm pretty sure when I took these still images off the VR headset, it was on Meta's old API. Because, I mean, they've been making changes all the time, but it was earlier in their API where the image quality wasn't as good. And somewhere along the line, version 78 of Horizon OS, I think, they improved the image quality of what developers get from their API. And so I think when I grab this image, these images, they're better quality images, which is why this test scores above the others. I think that's the primary reason. It's just the quality is just slightly better. So, you know, one way to say it would be, hey, like, don't worry about these lower scores. But I think it's still worth it to catch bugs and things. So for whatever reason, something I changed like threw this down to 10. I don't know why this is doing so terribly. So I got to decide. I guess I should do a bug hunt, shouldn't I? Probably should. All right, let me do that. Let me resolve that and get these scores back to here. And the way I did that was, so this is the loop code from last time. All I had to do was disable this line, set the chunk end to 1. And now we basically go through this while loop, but we only go through it once. And we basically, you know, instead of like OCRing in chunks like this, we end up just doing the entire file in one shot. So easy to change the logic. Well, all of a sudden I've got a little bit of a throat thing going on. I don't know why. Okay, so what do I do? Align frames is like a whole 10 points lower. This one's like 40 points lower. Good is slightly lower, nothing terrible. Shaky's a bit lower. Yeah, something broke something. Yeah, which, I mean, overall we are 10 points lower on average compared to down here. It's not good. So I have to decide how much I care about this. Maybe I really don't want to go bug hunting right now. One thing I did add too was, I don't know, just had some weird issues where if we were chunking, the test suite didn't like it. So I did add an extra signal where we pass the final chunk size. And so because of that, now instead of checking for like, hey, is the chunk number, how many chunks are we expecting? Now I can just say, hey, look, this is the last chunk. Like, we're done with the page. So I'm able to detect that. So that should help make testing a little bit easier on me. And who knows, I may actually have a need for that later. Decisions. I guess I can briefly do a bug hunt. So, is this safe to push up as is? Git diff. All right, commented that out. That's mostly test suite stuff. Commented out some log statements. Mess with these numbers, and that still doesn't seem high enough. So I put a comment here. I got to recompute this. Mostly test suites issues, test suite improvements. Okay, fine. Let's just push that up. Well, let me do star.gd, git add source. Okay. Keep saying okay this morning for some reason. Test suite improvements. Testing single chunk. Push that up, and then because Godot behaves a little bit weirdly, I'll close that because it doesn't like it when I change branches. So let's start by just git checkout main. VS Code seems to do fine with swapping between branches. Godot doesn't seem to like it. Alright, so we're back on main, and then I should be able to just run the test suite. It'll rebuild the back end, it'll run the whole thing. I shouldn't have to tweak Godot at all. And then let's just see where our numbers are at. Hopefully they're like this. Hopefully these numbers look like this. In which case then I know it's something I changed in the current pull request. Because I really don't want to go digging into those other pull requests right now. Alright, let me switch over to water. Probably a good idea anyway. Yeah, I'm already pretty sure this is the case. Excuse me. Here we are. So the cropped got better somewhere along the line. So it went up 20 points. Shaky leg is at 92.96 on the dot. Align frames is dropped down. So interesting. Angled is the same. It failed because what? It was too slow. Is that the issue? 94.93, I suppose. And then good dropped a few points. I think I knew this. I think I did make some sort of change that overall average scores are higher. But I think that's why, I mean, that's largely because this one got better. All right, so I definitely tanked something. If I run this again, we'll skip building the back end. We'll just rerun the suite again just to see if performance-wise it can just run a little bit faster and we get some test passes. see how this does. Very odd. Why is it failing? It's failing because... So line frames is expecting a 79. Yeah, so this got tanked. You're supposed to be a 94 with a limit of 8 seconds. That's why this one's failing. And then good... Yeah, is off by a teeny tiny amount. All right, let me take this as is. Yeah, that's annoying that you can't do that. I gotta spend a little time improving my local dev setup at some point. Here, let's go high on this. Nope. Test suite scores recorded well after merger. Something went sideways on the scores in the last 2 PRs. That's fine. All right, so I'm going to do that. Bring this down to here. Fine. And put that in the corner. So that's what I'm going to go off of. That's what I'm going to go off of for fixing the current PR. I'm not going to try to fix the old bugs. I will go back to them at some point. Which is why I left that comment above, so then later I can see, oh wait, yeah, somewhere along the line I did introduce bugs. Let me go investigate and see what could be fixed to improve things. Branch, what is it? I don't know. I can just check it out. Get checkout, better OCR chunking. And now I can just rerun. Those are those results, right? 81.71, yep, they are. And rebuild and rerun. And now I can see what it is did I break. Pretty sure that align frames with crop, this test, this one I think went to like nothing. So since I'm, oh no, it's scoring 70. This will be very funny if something weird is not happening. Oh, never mind. It aborted. Huh? Oh, I checked out add-ons instead of bin. That's dumb. All right, now we switch branches. And we can bring Godot up again. So yeah, this is the importance of keeping track of a good test suite. Makes it so much easier to chase down things when they go sideways. And you're just like, I have no idea why. All right, so here we are. Everything fails. Align frames the crop scores at 10, which is ridiculous. Shaky leg is down to 90. Align frames went down a little bit, but not too bad. Angled is about the same. Yeah, that one's about the same, which is funny because I think that was the one I was using as my primary investigator on this PR. And then good dropped down to 79. So, I mean, good's the same. So good and angled are both fine, right? Basically. Effectively no change. Shaky went down a bit. Align frames went down a small amount as well. And then really this one got murdered. End times went up on average. I am really going to be clearing my throat a lot this morning for some reason. Maybe I'm still sick from the other day. Okay, so how do I chase this down? I think the first step might be, let me just do a quick code review and see if there's any obvious culprits. This change should not affect the test suite. This is for like the streaming results as to whether or not we update things. But this shouldn't have any impact. OCR managers, we've got the chunk size. Here we're doing like the offset. But again, this really shouldn't affect things. I mean, I guess it could. So one thing that could affect things. What's supposed to happen is we remove the white space. So this white space here should get removed when we do the Levenstein distance calculation to determine what the score of this text is. I'm going to go ahead and say that's working fine because... So this is shaky, which only went down a little bit. Well, its score did go down, so it's possible the white space is messing with it. It might be the trailing white space then. See, good. Okay, good barely budged. It went down ever so slightly. And it's got this whole big gap here that needs to get fixed. Which, I guess I'll try to do that again. Let's go 2.1. See if that fixes it. And then we do have like some indentation here. So that's going to lead me to think that this shouldn't impact things at all, the white space. I mean, if we look at ones that like didn't change their score at all. Yeah, this one also barely changed its score. And it has white space. And then this one, for whatever reason, got murdered. So probably not the white space compute. But it's possible. Actually, I think when we... Oh, that's interesting. See, when I go to log, well, let's look at what the test suite does to do the comparison. So we log individual test results. Page 1 text. Reference text. That's fine. Page 1 text is going to be page text 0. So we call page text on the page. So we get line text. So we just get all the line texts and we add a new character after them. Yeah, we get the word text and we put a space. So I don't even think we even incorporate at all the indentations. I think here, yeah, in fact, even here, yeah, this is what I was looking for. I added this in order to help with visualizing the differences between things. So if it's a new paragraph, adding an extra new line character so I could visually see what the difference would be. But that wouldn't affect Lovenstein at all. Because again, we just don't, the line data doesn't have that info. So yeah, that's not going to affect anything at all. It does remind me, didn't I see somebody who said they were capitalized? Right, I forgot what this meant. Let me change that. Let's do... if line is... Would be nice to put cap on either side of it. That's fine. That's going to tell me. Or let's do there. That's much more, and we'll get rid of the spacing. That's much more obvious what it's saying, and it forces a little bit of indent. So now the next time I see this, I won't think it's somehow like an OCR miscompute. All right, let's finish code reviewing. I'm gonna take it slow. Yeah, here we're using the line speed box info to determine things, but again, shouldn't matter. Find matching line. This could be one of the problems. But I think that's only used for stitching together. Yeah, this would only matter because if we come in here, I guess the final chunk would be, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so I can do chunk num. Yeah, let me fix that. That actually helps things quite a bit in terms of avoiding edge case bugs. So we have final chunk here. we could do... Oh. No, actually, maybe this can't change. Change this up. Let's do that. Start new page. Yeah, if we did the... Yeah, we can't use the final there. That's fine, though. So, anyway, if it's the first chunk, we're starting a new page. Can append lines is true, which means if we get a good score, which this is its own problem, but, you know. Heck, maybe this is the reason why... You know, this could be the reason why things are failing. Interesting. But in any case, yeah, if as long as this is true, this will be true if we're going off as a single chunk. So then we'll always do this. So we'll never do the fine matching. Let me test that, though. Let's go back to 0 on this. So as long as we get a decent word. And we can skip, right? Because we didn't touch anything on the back end. So if I go back to that, yeah, so this is only used in chunk mode. Which there could be bugs there, but we're not going to worry about that now. Computing metrics, again, this is for things like indentation, which don't affect our score. Test counter, it's fine. You should have results now. I think shaky went up. Yeah, shaky's back to basically a good score. And then align frames is back up. Crop is still terrible, but it got better. So it doubled its score. Angled is actually higher. And then good is back in the ballpark. So we're still 10 points off, but we're closer now. So that was part of the issue. Was throwing away lines that were just poorly OCR'd. Which might be a good call to do anyway. It's you know, it's one of those weird things where, yeah, you look at this junk here. It's garbage. It means that we did a bad job of OCRing. But from a Levenstein distance perspective, this could actually mean... This could actually be a good thing. It could improve the score. In this case, what is it? Good. That's 78. Yeah, I got some stuff to fix here. But yeah, I mean, that's... Where's our 21 one? Yeah, I mean, we probably just included a bunch of lines we threw away, which got us up a bit more. All right, let me skim through and see if I can figure out other issues. So again, all we were doing before is, again, if it's greater than 0, add the line. Now we're adding the line with the offset, but again, like the offset shouldn't affect anything. All right, so we added some things to the signal. We got rid of a signal that we don't even use. There's a small chance that the chunk we're working on got messed up. So before, well, if we were running tests, sorry. This was if we're not running tests. So the old way was just extract text grayscale for the whole image. All right, so one test I can do right now. Since we're going to go with this. So if I just do final image. Just pass in the whole thing. Instead of, like in theory, this chops up the image. But maybe there's a bug in here. And maybe even though we got these chunks though, this image coming out from here might be slightly different in some weird way. Yeah, it's worth a shot. I want to see it though. I want to see that effect scores before I go on that rapid chase. But that is a good possibility. Us chunking up the image might be wrong. Already, I think, because I see this up here. Nah, it didn't affect anything. Yeah, still off by 10. So that had no effect. And I did a rebuild, right? Yeah. So funny. Huh. Well, I did a finished code review, right? Well, no, maybe I didn't. Close, though. Yeah, I'm not using any of this logic. That's all throwaway. .h. Yeah. All right, so then we have to go through a new process. New process is here. I undid that, right? Yep, there's our chunk image. Okay, fine. Let's run. Here, I'll rebuild anyway, just for the heck of it. Let's go take a look at our worst performing OCR and see what it looks like. Again, scores 21. Whoa. That does look pretty terrible, doesn't it? All right, one thing I need to do then. Git add bin. Let me just do a checkpoint here. Fix minor bugs. There, we'll push that. Let me close Godot again. These add-ons are annoying. And no matter what I do, they always get changed in some way. Git checkout main. So I'm going to run crop from here. I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to delete both of these just to be clean about it. And before I do anything else, let me just visually take a look. Really? That's not correct. It should be a 70. Something getting cached? We're on the main branch. I'm gonna be real annoyed if something gets cached here. Let's rebuild all. Just on the off chance that for whatever reason it didn't build right. Now I'm annoyed. Yeah. What's going on? Closed everything. There's no way it's getting cached. That's not supposed to happen. Why would this go from 70 to 20 that quickly? That seems wrong to me. And it's going to cause me to lose faith in my build system if I can't rely on it in this way. I think this is the first time I've seen this happen, but again, you know, I had been in situations before where I could have sworn something was working and then it wasn't working. So what do we have here? Let's do this. Let's check out bin. And run one more time. But I do see one issue here. Where are we doing the alignment? Yeah, so we failed alignment, alignment failed. Well, it's really just twice. We have 3 images total, and 2 of them have to align. Neither aligned. I'm curious if I had gotten an alignment before, which is what I don't know about. No alignment. Still 21. I'm going insane here. This is driving me crazy. If we go look at the test results. Well, so we do have the Tesseract binarization, which is gibberish and way off. That's a bad image. There's our template for alignment, which is really bad. All right, I'll bite. Interesting. I have no bin changes. It didn't build. Let's build one more time, and then if this doesn't work, I am going to be annoyed, but I will go back to here and see if I can reproduce these numbers. Well, this one had a score of 50. Let me see here. Somehow this got 70. Man, I wish I hadn't deleted that test case. That's great. But even so, like getting back to 50 alone would be nice. I'll run the whole test suite for the hell of it, just to see. No DLL changes. Are they locked up or something? Something feels wrong here. Something feels like it's like if I restart my machine, something will work. Because something has like a lock or a hold on those files. Nope, there we go. This says 70. Oh. Oh. You know, what's really coincidental is that these two numbers are identical. And what is our first test in the suite? Test suite. Doesn't it tell me? Register typeset CP. This error here. I think I see this error all the time and it's not a problem. I thought I normally declared at the top what test we were working on. In any case, yeah, align frames went first. Score is a 70. That is suspicious. That is very suspicious. And this one doesn't do that. All right, I guess we're going back in time. 33, right? So 33 is this one. Let's do it. So that means it's lying. I mean, if I run this now, we'll skip and run crop. This will only take a second. Yeah, if we run it by itself, it scores a 21. When we run this part of this as the test suite, it does better. Ah! Okay. I think I know why that's happening. I don't know where the fix is, but I know why. I've seen this issue before. That's cute. Okay. Damn it. Well, it's a bug I can fix. The question is... All right. I have to do this because I have to have faith in my test harness. So I guess we're doing this. Get checkout. Not what I wanted to be doing today. Yeah, we're checking out 2A3. We'll run the whole test suite, confirm our results. This is number 33. And we should see these results here. I know they can be trusted because all these numbers are different. No duplicate numbers. Yeah, 49, 46, 79, well, the line frames actually does better on this run. 79, and basically 80 over there. 80, almost 84, okay, fine. Good, gets an 82, yeah, basically an 82. 92.96, yeah. Angled. 94.93, 94.88, but it's over 8 seconds. In fact, this scores slightly better than what I recorded here, but also slower. So I guess my machine's running a little slow right now, maybe. Could be. So we're gonna do this and we're gonna run and expect like a 49.46. 49.46, and yeah, it took like 2 seconds. So we should see something similar. Well, it will take longer because we're writing images. So I want to record this for posterity. But let's see here. So this is what it actually should be producing. I could see my newer code throwing this away and basically saying that, hey, look, because remember what I said. If we throw away lines where we don't have text, good text, that actually hurts us from a Levenstein distance. So I wouldn't be surprised if throw away, all this gets thrown away. And the first line we use, heck, might not even be this line. Might be this line. So if we throw all that away, it actually hurts our score, even though this is just so bad it's garbage. So I could see that happening. And yeah, we fail to align. So even back then, we weren't doing any alignment. We were literally just using this trash image. Now I do have a dream that at some point, and this would be why I love keeping this test around, is these are our 3 images. And like this is the page we're looking at. This page would probably score better, but we're only looking at this page. If we actually succeeded at doing alignment, we might be able to, there might be enough data to merge these 3 and actually get a good score. But that is a side project, side quest for another day. Right now, I've just focused on, like, this scenario should never happen, this garbage data scenario. And it doesn't happen. So I don't really care about trying to fix it. Because in reality, like, the headset does get alignment, is what it does. So all right, let's keep this here. I'll delete these so we know which one this is. In fact, I could just rename it. And we'll rename it to book detection number 33. What? I didn't click on the wrong button. Book detection 33. Actually, we should say... Nah, that's fine. $49.45. Right. And if I run the whole suite, again, just out of paranoia. So next duty is going to be, so we should see around 80, score of 80 overall. And everybody's different. Yeah. Well, no, that's not that score. There we go. Score of 80. Everybody's different. This one's basically a 49. Cool. That's good. So that's 33. Let's do 35 now. No, not what I wanted. There we go. Get rid of the bin. Our hash change. There we go. Let's run the whole test suite. So this should be 35. The HUD here. And I will add these results onto here. Note, results added weeks after the PR. And what I'm looking for is some bad scoring, which I'm not finding, which is good. It means the issue's in a later PR. Again, we're still at around 80. This one's failing because it's slow. This one's still scoring about a 50. And for posterity, I'll run crop and again expect 49 at 2 seconds. Well, not 2 seconds, but yeah, 49. Let's rename that. There. Okay, so we know it's not this one then. It's not 35. Main we're already looking at. So this is main. And main has the problem. Okay, so this introduced the issue. We compute metrics. This is all the computing of metrics stuff. So here's that get score. Okay. I have a theory. Get checkout bin. I already had this theory, but now I can confirm it. Get checkout main. Well, I guess I have two theories. Let me run this. What I should have done, we'll do 0, 1. Keep them in order. Now, one theory requires Godot. The first theory I should test. And depending on the results of the first theory, then I have to explore a second theory as to what's broken. Let me see here. Right, so my theory is... Sorry, I got distracted for one moment. Why is that closed? Oh. Wait. This was the one that introduced the error. Yeah. So let's run. So it got a 70.46 when it shouldn't. It should be scoring around a 20. If I get rid of this, though, if it gets a score, is what I'll go with. Yeah, there's its 20. And if I run it again, I wonder if we get higher, right? Do we get like 50? Is the question. No. We still get a 21. Interesting. Your princess is in another castle. Well, that's fun. Alright, so this little, like, score checking thing. I mean, it might affect it slightly. Because instead of like a 21.06. No, still. All right, this may actually affect things later. I'll test this again. So before we just added the line. Now we're scoring it. Always fun. Well, to be crazy, I would just start undoing changes. Is another thing you can do. And wait to see what thing sends us above. And sometimes you'd be surprised. Something you think has absolutely nothing to do with it may indirectly somehow affect things. As I suspected, was not the metrics. So, not metrics. Page text. Shouldn't matter because it's all rendering things. Okay, now I'm gonna freak out. Huh? That's all this file was. And this is the one that messed everything up. It might not get a score. It might return false. Which I think it may actually do. If it can't find anything. I think that's it. I knew that logic was trouble. And there we are. That's the issue. If I run the whole test suite, do I get a 49.46? Somewhere. If I go back to it, $49.46. Yeah, now we're back to everything being hunky-dory. And I know why. 79.68. Literally the exact same score. And it's not metrics. So we should still get a 79.68. $79.68. So metrics had zero effect. It's really this get score that's the issue. And for the heck of it, if we go look up at it again. Now again, we miscompute indents and things like that, but it is the same. We're back to a bigger block of text. So, greater than 0. Now the question is, why does it duplicate? That's the other bug I got to look at. So line.getScore, I think I know what it's doing. And I may not want to change it. I may decide that this is worth hurting things. So if we don't have any strong words, well, the first time we call this, we try to go get strong words. And a strong word is like any word that has a score, an OCR score, greater than 80. Now, I could reduce that a little bit. I could take this down to 70 or something and be a little more forgiving with it. If I did that, then down here, this would give me an extra knob to turn. And I may or may not want that. Again, this scores so terribly. I mean, you could argue like this is actually a good thing to like throw away the trash, even though it hurts my test suite. And maybe I just rebalance it and accept that, hey, this actually should be scoring like a 20, right? If we actually remove the garbage. Yeah, I mean, I can tune that separately. The question is, why, when I turn it back on, see, back to no change. Now if I run it again, we're going to end up with a duplicate score. That's the bug that I really care about right now, because it's not giving us an honest score. Yeah, so we're getting a 70.46. So in the test suite, we run our first test, which is align frames and scores a valid 70.4. Then we run this test, which I think logs the exact same thing. So we don't actually end up resetting anything. So when we run the test suite, so OCR manager on text scanned, OCR manager does get initialized. So we preload that and then we initialize it. When it initializes, we do connect the signal. Which would call on text on image capture. Oh wait, what? Sorry. On text scanned is the one we care about. I think on image capture, yeah, I think this needs to get deleted because we don't do that anymore. I have some old code I need to clean up. So on text scanned. So we do call this. We run through everything, and then we add the page. The test suite Text scanned. Yeah, it's the same scanner service. And we just have XML text. This was a bug I think I fixed, but yeah, it has the extra page number, but this never changes. We don't really use it. So why does it call it directly instead of run next test? There might be a delay there. But if I comment this out, does it ever get called? I guess in theory, if it does, all this would run, game state would add a page, and we would get this log line. So I'm guessing for whatever reason that signal doesn't get wired up. Yeah, everything gets a 0. And I don't see any log statements. So I don't understand why that is. So I initialize the OCR manager, and that should... Oh, you know why, maybe? Because on ready, we immediately call run next test. What about the scanner service? I mean, that should already... Yeah, I don't know why. For whatever reason, it doesn't get loaded, and so we have to call it manually. That's a little confusing to me. I shouldn't have to do that. There's something about Godot there that I do not understand. Fair enough. So we call it. The first time we run, we call this. If it's the first run, we get our test case. Yeah, why do I not have a running test up here? Oh, I do have that. Here we go. So we set the images, we trigger scan. And then when the signal comes in, when the test finishes, come in here, we pass it on. And then we run our next test. And this is where we log the individual results. When we log individual results, we go to game state to get the page text, and that's what we score off of. That's what we generate our score off of. So if we call this the second time we call it in, we should generate a new page every time. We would compute metrics, and then we add page. That's all we're doing. Right? Right? Yes. Okay, that's all code comments. things I need to clean up or experiments I needed to circle back to. Add page. So, this is where we get into trouble, I think. I think when it comes through the second time, this fails. And so we end up not updating the page. That's the issue. And that's what throws off the score. And in the scenario where we were scoring a 50, what ends up happening is its lines.size is, it passes this check. So its lines.size is greater than 70% of the previous lines.size. And so then we allow it through. But if we do such a terrible job of OCRing that test case, we end up reusing the old result. Okay, so the solution, I know what the solution is then. And I'm not gonna, okay, so that's fine. This is all good. Let me close this. Let's do a git checkout, better OCR chunking. So the one fix I've got for this is that when we're done the test suite, so we've got log individual results. On text scanned. So run next test. Okay, so we get a new test. I'm trying to think of the right place to do this. Fine, so let's do game state. So this should work now. This should work anyway. But clear out to be safe. Or let's say like reset. That would fix it. Because then when we come in here and we finish up and we say go add page, in here there may be logic to determine. And this like signal emission is what determines things. So that fixes that bug. That also then means if I'm back here and I run the test suite, I need to get back to a place where I trust the test suite. while that's running, since what I'll probably do is it 38? I think it's 38. Yeah, fine. I'm going to edit this because I just added this today and just say, like, look, I did have to fix a bug. So that's the real score that I'm going against. That's what it should be. Now I could, I don't think I'm going to do this, but I could come in here and if true, or if I run that again. Here, let me take this. We can skip this time. There is a minor bug I fixed after this PR. Below is what the scores should be with that reporting bug fixed. Yeah, so that gives us that 21. Yeah, so here we are back up to 79. So I just have to decide, and then I should say, let me do the edit here. Note also that crop test could be scoring a 49.46 if we undo the change where we check for at least one strong scoring word from the Hawker results. Technically, the 20% score is, we'll call these percentage, is more accurate as we remove a bunch of garbage. As we are now removing. And I'm the only one who's ever going to read these code comments, but you'd be surprised. You'll be in these situations where you'll completely forget why you made the decision. And then 6 months from now, I may come back to this very pull request to understand what's going on. And then see this comment and be like, oh, right. Like, that's why there was some weirdness going on here. Okay, so I thought the scores were terrible, but it's not the case. This is kind of all sort of going to plan. I think I will reset back to baseline and say that, no, look, it should be scoring like a 20. It's a terrible test. It should score terribly. It's bad, and it should feel bad. Which, if we ignore that, if we control for that, and we reflect a little bit, where are our scores now? How badly have I screwed up things? So again, shaky leg, 92.96. Line frames is at a 70. 21. Is that true? So did I actually... I'm pretty sure I did paste this over with that fix. Now I'm doubting myself. Yeah, I did them one by one. So if we ignore that... So wait, a line should be about an 80. Now, see, something got lost here then. Oh, it's probably the same issue. Let me do it one more time. So if we go back one extra test, and we get rid of that scoring check. $79.68. Right. 92.96. 94.93. Yeah, we're back to this like a couple PRs ago. So this, well, 79.98. Yeah. Okay. Let me edit this and say other tests also dropped a few percents. Because of this change that trims garbage. Okay, so now that I've narrowed down and confirmed, the bug has absolutely nothing to do with the current code change that I'm working on. So, which is good. I thought there'd be like bugs that I should be fixing. I mean, there's like some small bugs I fixed, but I mean, I added a safeguard that actually didn't affect things since I undid that code change anyway. But it could have resulted in duplicate test results. So now I've safeguarded against that coming back ever again. But this is what the test results should be. So we should be at a... All right. What I'm going to do then is bring this up. And the one thing I didn't fix is this. So, a line should be at a 70. Crop should be at a 20. What? No. Crop should be at a 21. Angled should be at a 94. Yeah. Good should be at a 79. Oh, angled, by the way. 8 seconds. I'm going to say 9 seconds. It keeps creeping above. Again, it could be my local machine, but even for these, like, I do give them some breathing room. By like at least a half a second breathing room. Or at least, well, yeah, let's call it a second. Should be giving them. I could be more precise with it, but That's fine. So that should be 9. And then good. Good's good. Let's make that 5 seconds. And then shaky. 92, 4 seconds. Now if I run this, they should all pass. And then knowing that they all pass then means I can go make changes. And then if one of them fails, then I can be a little more sensitive to those failures. Because what I should be able to do is, again, if things pass, ignore them. If they fail, pay attention to the failures, right? So yay, everything succeeded. Okay, now, if I come back here and I turn our chunks back on, the chunking, which I thought broke everything, and I rerun the whole test suite. Now that I can actually rely on the test suite again, and I can trust it, what are our scores? Do we actually have bugs related to chunking and stitching? Or is everything operating as it should be? There we are. So, angled still good. Good somehow got better. Okay. Sure, why not? Everybody else got trashed. Fair enough. I think the one test I was going to do, I think I already did it actually, was what happens if I set it to 0.5. So that means we're going to start by taking the first half of the page. And then we basically end up with 2 chunks, right? We just try to stitch it together, cut it in half, stitch it together. And what's our diff look like right now? Yeah, we've got our experimental code here and our reset and new scores. So good is doing better for random reasons, I guess. Align is getting trashed. Angled is doing fine. Shaky's back to good. Times are bad. I would kind of expect the times to take longer because, again, we know that overall everything's going to slow down by about a second or two, a second or two, because when we do the chunking, we have to do some overlapping so we can stitch them back together. Like, there's no way around that. So processing time will take longer. This test, I don't care about. I'm just going to ignore it pretty much wholesale. Align frames, however, let's run you. Let's see what's up. I can safely delete these now since I now know that that's not the issue. Okay, so our first... okay, that's kind of the problem. So this first chunk probably does fine. Right, because we aren't doing 2 chunks. Fine, let's do 2 chunks. This is actually 2 chunks now. And I do kind of want to, not that I need to, but because I've got version control. But I think I was doing 10% chunks. Now I'm just going to do 2 half chunks. Yeah, the question is how much can I chop it up and still do well? There we are. So 3 of them pass. Because there's only, yeah, reasonable slowdown. Okay, so actually that slowdown of a second was because we're still doing like 5 chunks. This one, line frames, how are you doing? Score went up, but it got quite a bit slower. So actually that's a success. This test I don't care about. You know, there's a check there that I do. Let me see here. So what we do, add page. On text scanned. Right. So because it's not a new chunk number, since the chunk number coming in what do we end up doing? There might be a small fix I can do here. What? I thought I scrolled up. All right, so here's the first one. That does okay. That scores a 77. Then the second one. So our first chunk. We actually got a couple of lines. But then we do a small overlap. And because it's so terrible and the overlap is so small, we don't do a good job yeah, never found a line to match. And then we fail. So then we end up keeping the original chunk. And we never add on the second chunk. If we did add on the second chunk, then yeah, we would have gone from like a 7 to a 20. I am going to decide not to try to fix that. Or if I try to fix it, it's going to be a fix from elsewhere. Oh, hey, what's up? Diomid, how you doing, man? Sorry for the delay. How do you write all that? More specific can you be? We're talking about Godot, we're talking about C++. Happy to answer questions. Okay, so I'm going to ignore this test altogether. But everything's back to good. I mean, again, this one only failed because it was slow. And actually, to account for that, I am going to... I don't know. I'll just crank all these up a bit. I'll expect them to be a little bit slower. So now what I can try to do is let's go smaller. So instead of chunk n being 4, let's do thirds. So heck, why not? Let's do 3, 3. And let's do 3, 3. Why not? We'll do thirds. So instead of 2 chunks, we'll end up with 3 chunks is what we should see. If I run the whole test suite again, everything will run slightly slower because of this, but we should now get slightly better chunking. So I think if this works, if I can get it down to 3 or 4 chunks, I think I'll call that good. The issue I might have had before is by going with a chunk size of 10%, like I was kind of forced to do the first third of the page anyway, because at the beginning of the image, well, this isn't a good example of it, but typically there's some white space at the top here. And so there's fewer lines to OCR. And so I have to give it a little bit of extra to get it started. And I know that was one of the challenges. So I may have to do... You know, this might have to stay 3-3, and then maybe I can mess with this. So I probably... Yeah, I mean, I had it at 2.5, so maybe I'll keep it at 3.3, and then this number I can reduce down a bit. Okay, now we got a bunch of failures. So when I try to chop it in thirds, Shaky did okay. Yeah, Shaky's still doing fine. Align frames got trashed. Don't care about crop. Actually, angle did okay. It just took way too long. And then good also got trashed. All right, so I'll have to go look and see what that is. Hey, Imaginable. What am I doing? So I'm building a VR app that adds to the experience of reading a physical book in the real world by matching the soundscape and the scene to the content that you're reading. So it uses the cameras on the VR headset, so you can take a physical book off the shelf, open it in front of you, and then it'll basically pull you into a good vibe surrounding you so that you can get lost in the story, get lost in what you're reading. If it's doing its job correctly, you kind of forget that the app's there. Because again, it's just going to match that sound, the music behind you, and sort of the scene around you to the text that you're reading on the book in front of you. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, let me know what you think about it. I'm a programmer with 5 years of experience. I can help. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm mostly trying to work on this by myself. But I may put out at some point I may put out some of the OCR image capture stuff as an open source sort of plugin for Godot for anybody who wants to have easier access to the cameras to do things. You're not reading. Well, the code I'm working on right now, so to give you an example, so here's an image taken of a book, and when you run OCR on it, you can actually get like a Hawker file, HOCR, which is like an HTML OCR file that kind of represents all the text that it found on the page. And I've built myself a test suite to run against things. So these are actual images off of the VR headset. So this is an image captured using the Meta Quest 3, using the API that Meta provides. And so, yeah, I got a bunch of different steps here of where I'm trying to recognize text, isolate that text, and then crop down to that. I then try to do merging of images. This is actually a test scenario. Well, actually, we are able to merge something, right? Yeah. So merges multiple images, because when you merge two images together, if you can align them properly, you'll actually get better text results out of it instead of just going off of an image by itself. So when you align the two, you can end up with sharper letters, which is easier to OCR. And then I go through a couple other layers of processing, and then I'm actually working on some chunking operation to chop it into pieces, because the OCR operation running on the headset, using Tesseract OCR, which is CPU bound by the VR headset, which is basically an Android phone, is what Meta has in the Quest 3. So that actually takes a little while to run. All this like pre-processing with OpenCV, like this stuff's all really fast, relatively fast. The OCR is slow, so I'm working on chunking it, so taking effectively this image, slicing it into pieces, and OCRing each piece, and then streaming those results to the headset. And by doing that, I can basically, in like under 8 seconds, get the first couple lines of text showing up, and then the rest of them will lazily show up after that. But to do that, I need to chunk the image, but then also have some overlap, so that way, let's see here. So that way you can see like this one ends with, this sentence that says the whole product. This one has that sentence up here at the top. So because there's a little bit of an overlap, when I get those two chunks of OCR, I can kind of stitch them back together. So that's what I'm working on now, is fixing some final bugs related to that, so I can, as efficiently as possible, chunk the OCRing and get something that's not going to be real time, but close enough. But yeah, and then with this done, I'm pretty much then ready to move on to the more interesting part, which is basically, so I already have it where, and I've got some videos out on YouTube with some devlogs that show this more completely. I don't have the headset to hook up at the moment to show it right now on the stream here. But I do have it working where, yeah, you put on the headset, you're seeing the room, you're seeing the real world with the pass-through cameras. You open a physical book in front of you, and then that, based on detecting text, detecting the book on the page, we then OCR and we give you a digital book in your hands that has the same text on it, but it's now in the 3D world scene, which means you can change the font of that text, you can resize it, but more importantly, I can then move on to the fun part, which is do sentiment analysis on that text. And if you're reading a story that's a bit creepy, maybe the music behind you is a bit creepy. If it starts to rain, if like it's raining in the story on the page that you're reading, maybe you hear a little bit of that diegetic sound behind you. Maybe the scene around you has a little bit of rain to it. Not enough to distract you from what you're reading, because I want to help people stay in flow state and focus while reading, and basically augment that reading experience, not distract from it. So instead of trying to do something like creating a movie scene around them, just kind of give them a little bit of that meat, that juice of what they're reading, so they can just enjoy that reading even more. I am actually streaming on both Twitch and YouTube. So I am streaming to two platforms right now. And depending on the day, sometimes I get people hanging out on Twitch, sometimes I get people hanging out on YouTube. Right now I got a little bit of both. You're making a VR game that has the same story as the book. It'll be whatever book you pick up. So you'll be able to take any physical book in the real world off the shelf. So it could be anything. In fact, eventually my thought is it could be schoolwork. It could be your homework. It could be anything you want to read. and it'll block out the outside world so that you can stay focused on what you're reading. So it is meant to work with any physical book from the real world. It's not like an ebook reader or anything like that. Does that make sense, or am I still confusing you a bit? I know it's a little bit of a concept. So a lot of people assume that I'm talking about like an ebook reader type thing. Let's see, what was I at here? Let's bring that back up. But it did hate that for some reason. Let me take a look at good and see what it... Well, I should be able to see here, right? At least be able to see enough. Yeah, so it's not matching. So that can be that there's not enough overlap. Nah, it's cool. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I'm always, when I ever build something, I have thought before about, hey, should I build, an incremental improvement on something else? But for me, it's much more fun to take a swing for the fences, crazy hard problem and put my energy into it and see if I can, I don't know, build something crazy that no one's built before. So I oftentimes that means I end up having to solve very hard technical challenges that sometimes end up being impossible. But that's more fun. I'd rather fail doing something hard than succeed doing something boring. I should write that down. All right. Chunk offset. If I increase that, I think the offset is, where do we use that? Yeah, so we subtract the offset. That means we go back a little bit. So if I run again, so our average score right now is 47.8. Does that improve the average score? Just by giving it a little bit extra, maybe it'll actually find a line that it can overlap with. These are the knobs to turn. Okay, now this feels right to me. Like, just tweak these knobs until... I think this is at 0.7, right? Oh, and I lost that number in my head. What was that number? I think it was in the 40s, right? Let's see here. No, still 47. If I go crazy with this, let's do 12. And run it again. In theory, if I do a big enough offset here, then it should increase that overlap between the images, and that should fix the issue I'm seeing right now. And then the question is, then can I bring down the step size? How long have you been doing this? The original idea I had for this was like 5-6 years ago. I had started dabbling in Godot a little bit here and there, but never enough to actually like do anything real with Godot. Like, I did some prototypes of this, but I would have never been able to work on this properly until earlier this year. So really February is when I really dove in hard on this. So the videos that you see on YouTube, those all started basically February. And that was right before Meta opened up the Passthrough camera API. So prior to like March, April, like this was not possible because Meta, like there was Passthrough on the Meta Quest headset, but developers weren't allowed to. Yeah, that fixed it. Developers weren't allowed to make API calls to get images. So They opened that up in the spring and have been fixing bugs since then. So unfortunately, I've been on the bleeding edge because I've been doing things, for instance, where is it? This test scores better than the other tests, always. And the reason why is like these other tests, the images I grabbed for them, I grabbed back in like March, April, May-ish. And then in like June or July, Meta improved the API to return slightly better quality images. And this wasn't even like me grabbing a bunch of images and taking the best. Literally the first random grab. Actually, let me see it. I can even show it. Wait, can I? Fine. Test cases, here we go. Yeah, so you can see like these images aren't even that great. Like it's at a weird angle compared to like good and good and shaky both have like very stable, solid images. But the raw quality of the image coming off the headset is actually better now. So because Meta improved that, all of a sudden like this just scores better. So I spent even a couple of months trying to like improve scoring on things that, it's garbage in, garbage out. Better quality images from the get-go are just going to improve things. So in my head, I've basically told myself that 95% is the target, which is where I'm basically at right now for this one random image that I grabbed recently. At 95%, there's a lot of things I can do for improving the quality of the text on the back end. Below 95%, the results are like garbage enough that you can't really read it. So like this is like 33.5. It's readable, but there are some parts to it where the words are going to be bad. You'll get some junk. So 95 is pretty good, but if we go to like, where are we? Yeah, this one's like 75. And if you look at this, like you'll just see sentences that are kind of junky. Like it gets pretty unreadable. You'll get it like a sentence like that. So that still scores a 75% on like the Levenstein mathematical distance from the expected text. But until you get to 95, it's like it's kind of hard to do anything with the text. But I'm not trying to solve that right now. I've kind of taken it as far as I want to in terms of score quality. And right now I'm actually trying to get to a alpha release of this app where I can actually have something that just barely works enough that I could put it out there and start getting people to test it and experiment with it and tell me what they think. Hey, Jonah, how's it going? Game Maker. No, I've never used... I assume you're talking about Game Maker Toolkit. I've never used Game Maker. I decided a long while... I've done a little bit of Unreal. I've done a little bit of Unity. But I decided many years ago... Because I have a couple of friends in like the game dev industry. And it seemed like even starting around... like, I don't know, at least 5 to 10 years ago, it seems like Godot is the engine to use. It's like if you're super serious and you want to be in the industry, you probably should learn Unreal. If you are doing something on the side by yourself, you should be probably using Godot. And there's kind of not really a reason to use Unity anymore. It's kind of stuck in the middle. All right, so good. So this worked. So, but again, that's kind of a big offset there. Chunk 1. So I am at 3 chunks with a bit of heavy overlap. What can I get away with here? If I go to 10 and run that. So that's like a 72 score. You use Unity? Nice. Yeah, I liked Unity when I used it. It's just, the company's done some shady things, and Godot keeps getting better on the low end, which is the free end of things. And Unreal is slowly making its user experience easier, so it's less of a learning curve. And Unity is kind of getting squeezed in the middle. So as good as Unity is, I wonder what's going to happen in the long term with it. Mostly 3D stuff you've been working on? Yeah, this is my first real project as a game dev. And I guess I decided to go hard mode because I'm going 3D, but also VR, but also using APIs that didn't exist 6 months ago. Okay, so that killed align frames. So align frames didn't do as well. So in the interest of it working, let me go to 12 again. And what if I do 0.2? Or is that just not going to be worth it? You know what? Let me run that again. I think I'm going to stick with this for the moment. At least having 3 chunks is better than nothing. And I know already that the start chunk is going to have to be like the top third anyway. I could maybe go down to quarter. I could experiment with that. But if this is scoring pretty well, then I don't know how much I care to like, I might take it to 4 chunks instead of 3. Yeah. So we're at 72. We're actually somehow scoring better than what I was scoring before. Even though this test got absolutely hammered. So funny. Align frames somehow went up in score. I don't know how that happened. And good. Wow, somehow good got better. How? How does that happen? That is weird. Oh, the AI in Unity. They added AI. Where's my Twitch? If you search for Udes, you should find me on Twitch. I think I have a link in the YouTube description. I stream to both, and then I put up videos, devlog videos on YouTube. Shaky. Why is Shaky scoring bad? Okay, fine. I'll set that to 6. Again, I expect things to go a little bit slower. By a second? Yeah, that seems about right. It's about a second slower for 3 chunks. And we are on 3 chunks, right? Chunk 2. Yes, that's 3 chunks right now. I do have to leave very soon. Unfortunately, I have a meeting conflict in a bit. I think I'm going to at least checkpoint this. So... yeah, so here's the bug fix. Updates to the scores. And tweaking to my numbers in order to get things to actually work. So, if nothing else, this is mergeable. I'm going to try to go to 4 instead of 3, but I'm not going to waste a lot of time on it. Let's do bin, source, testing. Okay, there we go. So this is good scoring with 3 chunks. Cool. So that's backed up. And now what I could try is, do I go a little smaller on these two numbers in particular. Okay, you're heading over to Twitch? Yeah, I think I have one person over there. Yeah, it's hit or miss. Sometimes I'll get more people over on Twitch, more people on YouTube. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. I'm just happy for anybody who wants to hang out. I'm mostly doing this for myself. Oh, I also know, yeah, so again, I could... What I should do is, I mean, technically I could just get rid of the greater than 0 because this is going to be truthy. If it returns anything, then that is guaranteed to be greater than 0. So I think effectively this is the same as just not having this at all. But I'll leave it there. It's a little more explicit. Yeah, I see 2 viewers over on Twitch. I'm assuming that's you, Imaginable. All right, let's try that. Let's do quarter. Let's see if we can get a quarter working. And if it works as 4 chunks, I think I'm literally going to call that good. I'm not as cool as it would be to like do 10% of the image and have it like literally 2 or 3 lines at a time stream in. I'm not sure that that's as cool as that would be to like sort of like almost live stream, like stream in the results from OCR. I'm really not sure that that matters. I really wish Tesseract had a streaming capability. You'd think it would, where it could stream out its results as it finds them, but it can't for some reason. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay. So I think we are at 1, 2, 3. Okay, yeah. So we are 4 chunks. And aligned still doing better. Angled, of course, always good. These other 2 got trashed. So if I do that one. Like, let's start with the top third, get a good starting point. I think the good starting point matters for these tests. I think these might have like more white space at the top. Actually, I can just go back and look at that. No, actually I can't. I could run them individually and then get my result details to see. Let me just run that. So we start with the top third of the page, and then from there, then we do quarter steps, which should still end up with 4 chunks, I think. Just means our first chunk will be slightly beefier, but that first chunk is the one that matters the most. Well, Imaginable, if you are over on Twitch, it's making me doubt Twitch chat because I'm supposed to be monitoring. Oh, there you are. Okay. Twitch before, so I had to make it. Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, I was like, I'm monitoring Twitch chat, and I expected a message from you. And since I didn't see it, it had me doubting whether or not I have my setup proper here. I don't usually get a lot of... Actually, that's not true. Have I gotten messages? I think most of the chatty people have been on YouTube, not Twitch. Come on. There we go. That worked. Again, all the scores are good. So did we end up with 4 chunks? 4 chunks. So that might be the limit for now. I mean, really, it's this first chunk that matters the most, though. So if I can reduce that at all... Yeah, what if I go to that and run it? Maybe this will be the last little experiment I do. It seems like I can't go to a quarter. I can't go to 2.5, but I can probably go to 3. And if that works, I think I'll call it good. So the first third, not even third, 30% of the image will OCR. And then we'll do quarters after that. And when we get to a certain point, we just round up. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Let's see. Go, go, go. So far, so good, I think. There we go. And they succeeded. So I think I'll call that done. I think I'm not gonna split hairs. Let's see here. Align frames. I don't understand how that happened, but somehow its score went up. All I did was chop up an OCR in chunks instead of OCRing the whole thing. I don't know why that score would have gotten better, but it did. Our little crop guy got completely demolished. I'm fine with that. At times I've been able to get the OCR for this up to like 70%, but I think it was kind of, I don't know, not real. Or, I don't know. I know why this is failing. This is failing because we're not able to merge two images together. If we can just merge two images together, the quality goes up by so much. It like ends up being totally worth it. Because this is going off of a single image and it's an old bad image from the old API, this one's score is just in the toilet, and I think I just need to accept that. Anyway, I'm going back to making games in Unity because I like game dev. Sweet. Yeah, I've spent, I mean, I've done a little bit of game dev, but I'm mostly like a software dev, web app, mobile apps, mostly like Python, Vue, React kind of dev. So I started doing game dev on the side, but now I'm kind of doing like, spending like, well, I was going to be spending half of my time doing this, but now I also have a couple of clients that I'm doing development for, so I'm kind of getting busy and haven't had as much time to game dev as I did a few months ago. What else we got here? So Angled, our star player, score went down slightly, but I'm okay with it. Good is at 91 somehow. So weird. So overall the score went up and times took an extra bit. Let me see about recording these. Let me update these. So align, I'm now expecting align to be 76. Keep it at 5 seconds. Well, let's do 4.5 seconds. We'll give it a 1 second headroom for failures. Crop is going to be 4. And we'll do 4.5 on that one as well. Angled, 94. And we'll do 10.5. Again, give it a whole second of headroom, just, you know, to account for local CPU running a little slow on a given day. And then good, our good test. Where's good? Why am I blind? Somehow it's back up to 91. I think I had it at 91 a while ago. And we'll do 5.5. And then shaky leg, 92. And again, we'll do 5.5. So what I then typically do on this is I will grab, I'm going to basically call this pull request done. Come over here. And I'll probably leave some notes for myself before merging it. But I think I'm done and I want to move on. I'm tired of doing this chunking thing, and the chunking works well enough. I will test it on the headset just to make sure it does everything I expect. Actually, shouldn't have a failed test. If I run skip the build and just rerun it again with these scores, I'll get a better result. But that's it. I think I'm gonna end here. Thanks for hanging out, Imaginable. Thanks for chatting Enjoyed it. I always like it when a good, quick little distraction. Diamid, thanks for asking what's going on. What am I doing? Always love practicing my little elevator pitch for the thing I'm working on. Anyway, thanks for hanging out, and I'll talk to you later.